Welcome back to the deep dives, where we take these really complex strategies, dense research, and critical business concepts, and we try to boil them down.
We extract the most important nuggets.
Exactly, so that you can be instantly and thoroughly well-informed. Today, we are strapping in for a deep dive into something that is, it feels like it's absolutely central to whether a modern business survives or just thrives.
It really is.
And that's a transformation centered entirely on the customer experience, or CX as everyone calls it.
And it's so much more than just a marketing buzzword or some new initiative. We're really talking about a fundamental shift in the entire operating model of a business.
Okay, so this isn't about like a new ad campaign or a slicker website.
Not at all. The material we've synthesized for today presents a really powerful strategic roadmap. We're looking at how organizations can and, frankly, must move away from what's comfortable.
The comfortable but stagnant approach.
Right. And our sources have this brilliant name for it, inertia. How you move from that inertia toward a truly outcome-driven, customer-centric model.
So our mission today really is to give you, the learner, a kind of shortcut, a way to understand the actual mechanics of this shift. Because let's be honest, this transformation isn't easy. It's not cheap.
Not even close, but it is necessary. Our sources do a beautiful job of articulating a framework around 4 critical, interconnected themes that define this new way of operating. It's all about what it means to embed the customer at the absolute heart of every single growth strategy.
So where do we start? What's the core problem we're trying to solve here?
Well, we have to start by establishing the central dilemma because that gravitational pull of inertia, it's incredibly strong, especially for established businesses.
The ones that have been successful doing things the old way.
Precisely. So if you're a business leader and your strategy for the coming year is basically taking last year's financial numbers plus an incremental target, you are, by definition, starting from a position of strategic weakness.
That's a bold statement. That's how most companies plan their year.
It is, and that is the very definition of inertia. It tells you that relying on the consistency and sustainability that you got from your old methods, the very habits that made you successful in the last decade, that's not how you win the market today. You absolutely have to commit to focusing on measurable outcomes first. That's the only way to genuinely transform the business rather than just, tweaking the output of the existing machine.
Okay, let's unpack that then. Outcome-driven strategy. When most people hear CX, like I said, they think of better customer service, maybe a friendlier chatbot. But you're saying this is about redesigning the entire organization around delivering specific, measurable, customer-embedded results. What's the architecture of that?
Exactly. This isn't just a surface-level paint job. This is a full engineering overhaul. Our source material organizes this massive undertaking into 4 interconnected themes, which, and this is crucial, they have to be pursued at the same time.
Not a checklist.
It's not a checklist. They collectively define the whole transformative, outcome-driven business strategy.
Okay, so give us the 4 pillars. What are they?
The 4 outcomes are, first, the frictionless journey. Second, building sustainable recurring revenue. Third is what's called data-driven mindshare expansion. And finally, number 4 is consistent value fulfillment.
Wow. Okay, so just hearing those 4, that sounds like a complete top-to-bottom overhaul of how a company thinks. Its operations, its sales philosophy, how it uses data, and even its final delivery promise. It's everything.
It is everything. And it all starts with escaping that first, very tempting trap.
Let's start right there then. Let's start where every business leader sits, facing the next budget cycle and trying to escape the trap of inertia. It is the challenge they live day to day. The sheer organizational ease of taking the path of least resistance. Inertia is it's comfortable.
It's so comfortable. And what's fascinating here is how clearly the source material defines the standard default actions that companies take. The ones that feel productive, they feel strategic, but ultimately they don't lead to any real transformation.
The busy work of strategy.
The busy work of strategy. They're called the delta actions because all they do is create a small change, a tiny delta, on top of the existing baseline.
Okay, you have to detail those for us because this is where I think a lot of companies spend millions, maybe billions, thinking they're transforming, but they're really just running on a treadmill.
Yeah.
What does a company do when it's stuck in the mud of inertia?
Well, They engage in those comfortable, predictable steps that are super low risk and, importantly, very high visibility. So the first and most common one is just adding incremental targets to old numbers.
The annual budgeting game.
Exactly. Marketing gets a 5% bigger budget and is expected to deliver 5% more leads. Sales gets a 7% higher quota. It's simple math, not strategy.
No fundamental change. What's next?
Second, they tweak the organizational structure. This is the endless shuffling of the boxes on the org chart. Maybe merging two departments to achieve some supposed synergy.
Which usually just means more meetings and confusion for 6 months.
You've been there. Third, they refresh the messaging and branding. They'll launch a new, sharp-looking campaign that feels modern, but it changes absolutely nothing underneath the hood about how the company actually functions or serves its customers.
And the most expensive symptom of inertia, I have to imagine, is the technology purchasing.
Oh, absolutely. The fourth, and maybe the most destructive inertia action, is implementing standalone technology to plug some immediate, short-term, siloed business need.
I see this all the time.
A cool new application for the finance team, a new reporting system for the marketing department. These are, high-tech solutions to what are ultimately low-level, fragmented problems.
We've all seen it. A department head identifies a process gap, goes out and buys a piece of expensive high-tech gear, and plugs it into their little silo. Then they proudly proclaim digital transformation without ever asking the really hard questions.
Right.
Like, how does this system truly connect to the customer's actual end-to-end experience? Or how does this affect the department next door? Does it make their job harder? Does it create a new data silo?
Precisely. And while the source material acknowledges that these delta actions, they do provide consistency and sustainability to existing corporate objectives, which is why they're so tempting, they fundamentally fail. They fail to achieve the level of transformation required to become completely customer experience-centric.
So consistency is actually the enemy here.
In this context, yes, consistency from old methods, which is what inertia provides, is just not enough when the market demands fluidity and radical transparency and absolute customer focus.
So this raises a really important question for me. Why is this shift so hard? I mean, why do smart, successful leaders, people who are really good at delivering consistency, why do they fall into this trap so easily?
It's the safety factor. It's predictable. Inertia avoids the political and the financial upheaval of real substantive change. But the real insight here is the financial trap. Short-term consistency masks long-term decay.
Say more about that. That's a powerful idea.
Well, think about it. If you are consistently operating at 95% efficiency based on last year's model, you feel good. The numbers look stable. But what if your competitors are transforming their entire structure to operate at 120% efficiency on a new customer-embedded model? Your safety is actively destroying your long-term competitive advantage.
And you don't even see it happening until it's too late.
You don't. The measurable cost of that safety after 3 to 5 years is stagnant customer metrics, high churn rates, and these dramatically increased customer acquisition costs as you desperately try to buy back the market attention you lost while you were standing still.
So, if consistency is the enemy of transformation, then the outcome-driven strategy is definitely the path less traveled.
Right.
It requires shaping the entire business strategy based on desired results for the customer, not just on replicating the habits that made you successful in the past.
It's a complete flip of the script.
Right. You stop saying, how do we sell more of what we already have? And you start asking, what outcome does the customer actually want? And how do we rebuild our entire organization to deliver that consistently?
And that rebuild, it has to start with the very foundation of the relationship, making every single interaction you have with them effortless. And that brings us right to our first pillar, the frictionless journey.
Okay, pillar 1, frictionless journey. This feels like the right place to start because it immediately grounds the whole discussion in a pretty stark modern reality. Business leaders have absolutely no control over customer expectations.
None.
Zero.
Specifically, how, where, and when they want to engage with you. Your customers' expectations are now set by the best experience they have anywhere, with any company, not just by your direct competitors in your industry.
That lack of control is the single driving force behind why frictionless design is a necessity, not a nice-to-have. If a consumer can order dinner on their phone, track the delivery driver on a live map, pay with a single click, and then automate reordering for next week,
They expect that same level of ease everywhere.
They expect a similar ease when they interact with a massive enterprise that's selling them a complicated business solution or a physical product that needs service later on. Anything less than that feels like you're making things difficult for them on purpose.
And this brings us to what our sources call the omni-channel reality. We are living in a world defined by a plethora of channels, myriad communication options, and this phrase that I find kind of terrifying, an avalanche of customer engagement touchpoints. It truly is an avalanche, and that's not an exaggeration. The customer experience is often incredibly complex. It spans physical locations, digital web portals, mobile apps, chatbots, and direct human interaction.
So the core imperative for the business, then, is to make that journey through that avalanche as frictionless as possible.
That's the only goal. You have to remove every single snag, every delay, and this is the big one, every redundant request for information throughout the customer's entire interaction lifecycle.
Can you give me an example of that, the redundant request?
Of course. It's when you fill out a form online with all your details, then you call the company, and the first thing the agent asks you is, can I have your name and account number?
Even though you're already logged into their system online.
Exactly. You're forcing the customer to do the work. Think of it as eliminating the emotional labor the customer has to perform just to complete a transaction or get an answer.
So if that's the strategic goal, eliminating that labor, what are the actionable steps? The material must outline what's required to achieve this frictionlessness. It sounds like a huge technological and process investment.
It is, and it requires 3 specific, highly interdependent actions that fundamentally change your operational capacity and your design.
Okay, let's start with the first one. What is it?
The first is gaining flexibility.
Flexibility. What does that mean in this context?
It means seamlessly integrating your physical and your digital channels. This is where most organizations completely stumble, because their systems were built over decades in these rigid silos.
So it's not enough to just have a website with a self-service FAQ page.
No. If a customer starts a complex service request online, let's say they're trying to diagnose an equipment failure on your website, and then they get frustrated and they call the contact center, the agent on the phone needs full visibility into that online history, instantly.
Without making the customer repeat everything they just typed for 10 minutes.
Without prompting the customer to repeat themselves even once. That seamless handoff digital informing physical and then physical updating digital, that's the holy grail of flexibility. It means the system actually bends to the customer's choice of channel rather than forcing the customer to restart their journey every time they switch from the app to the phone.
I think we see this done really well in, say, modern travel booking. You can start searching for a flight on your mobile app on the train, then call a concierge to ask a question, and then finalize the booking on your desktop at home, and the entire system remembers your preferences and your itinerary at every step.
That is the perfect analogy, and that flexibility, that memory, leads us directly into how we use data to actually enhance the interaction in real time, and that is personalization.
Which is the second action, creating contextual experiences. True personalization, it enables that seamlessness by eliminating all the mental friction for the customer. So how do we get that comprehensive context?
This means you're leveraging 4 critical components at the same time to anticipate and serve the customer. You have to utilize their existing customer preferences.
What they've told you they like.
Right. Then you analyze their entire past interactions, history, every purchase, every call, every click. Then you apply predictive analytics to forecast what their next need is likely to be. And finally, you enforce all of this through a set of clearly defined business rules.
Okay, let's pause on those business rules. That sounds like the part that makes it all work. How do they tie it all together?
The business rules are the engine. So if the system knows your preference is for fast, guaranteed delivery, and your past purchase history suggests an upcoming need for a certain high-margin accessory.
And the predictive analytics model has flagged you as a high-value customer who might be at risk of churning.
Exactly. The business rules are the mechanism that automatically dictates the response. They trigger the highest priority, most customized engagement strategy, right down to the exact messaging that's used by a chatbot or the script that pops up on a sales rep screen.
So contextual means using every single scrap of data you have to anticipate needs and make the interaction feel like it was designed just for me at this very moment.
And that completely eliminates the friction of generalized, irrelevant communication.
Okay, so we've got flexibility and context. The third action seems to address the operational side of delivery, which is where integration becomes absolutely critical.
Yes. The third is creating an end-to-end service. This is where the internal operations truly have to unify. To provide a genuinely integrated omni-channel service experience, you have to deeply connect your contact center platform with your service operation systems and, critically, with the field service technicians who are actually doing the physical work.
So if a customer needs a repair or an installation, the process shouldn't feel like three separate handoffs, right? Where
Right.
each one requires new paperwork or repeating the story of what's wrong.
It should feel like one single fluid process. The call center agent schedules the appointment. The service operations system automatically dispatches the right technician based on their geolocation and their specific skill set. And then that technician arrives with the correct parts, with the full context of the customer's previous issues on their tablet, and maybe even the authority to resolve the billing on the spot.
All unified by the same platform.
All unified. When those systems are disconnected, the friction doesn't just add up, it multiplies exponentially. It frustrates the customer because the whole process is opaque, and it frustrates your own staff who are trying to help them because they're basically battling their own internal systems.
So frictionless isn't just a customer-facing goal. It's an internal organizational necessity that has to be built on tight, unforgiving integration.
It has to be. And when a company actually achieves that level of consistency and ease, that trust that you build from a truly frictionless journey, well, it naturally leads right into the next strategic outcome, building sustainable recurring revenue.
That foundation of frictionlessness is so crucial because it leads us directly into the second pillar, achieving a sustainable flow of recurring revenue. And this isn't just about selling more stuff. It's about cementing a long-term relationship that generates perpetual value.
Absolutely. This pillar is all about the dramatic shift in philosophy that successful organizations have had to make. They are moving fundamentally away from the old sell and forget sales practice.
That legacy model.
Yeah.
It was all about transactional success, wasn't it? Get the signature on the contract, process the deal, move on to the next prospect.
And you didn't really care whether the customer actually used the product effectively 6 months later. The commission was already paid.
And that transactional model, it just doesn't guarantee future value. If the customer is struggling with implementation or they're unhappy a week later, they are gone at the first contract renewal opportunity. All that initial sales effort is just wasted.
Completely wasted. The new focus has to be entirely on adopt and use. And this requires, a cultural revolution inside the sales department. The modern sales organization has to evolve. They have to become solution providers and, critically, experienced experts who are guiding the customer to derive maximum value over the long term.
So recurring revenue only sustains itself when the customer is actively embracing the experience you provide, when they're utilizing the product deeply, and they're feeling continuous value rather than just remembering that one-time purchase they made a year ago.
It's the difference between a transaction and a relationship.
Which means the entire relationship changes. Sales teams have to become partners in the customer's long-term success, not just closers focused on the initial bonus. This often requires huge changes to compensation structures, right?
Oh, massive. You have to move away from those high commissions on the initial close and shift to bonuses that are tied to things like 12 or 24-month retention rates or customer satisfaction scores. That's the core hurdle, isn't it? Because if the compensation structure doesn't reflect the new strategy, the behavior on the ground is never going to change.
It won't. The material lays out 3 key objectives that successful businesses are pursuing to create this sustainable recurring revenue stream. And they all reflect this longer-term view of value creation.
Okay, let's start with the most measurable and fundamental shift. What's the first objective?
The first is increasing customer lifetime value, or CLV. This is the primary driver here, and it is overwhelmingly achieved by shifting to subscription-based revenue models as the preferred approach.
So moving from one-time sales to continuous service delivery.
Right. Whether that's a software subscription, a service contract for a physical product, or even a membership model. The moment you make that transition, your entire organizational focus immediately shifts. It moves from minimizing customer acquisition cost to maximizing the ongoing quality of the experience.
Because retention becomes the absolute lifeblood of the business. The product itself is almost secondary to the ongoing service and the relationship you build. Exactly. The higher the perceived value of that experience, the longer the subscription lasts and the higher the CLV. But this isn't just about, locking customers into a contract, is it? It's about creating genuine advocates for your brand.
Which I imagine leads directly to the second objective.
It does. The second objective is referral expansion. This is the crucial low-cost growth lever that comes directly from that existing loyalty. The goal is to increase your net new sales growth that emanates specifically from your satisfied, loyal customer base.
A customer who has fully adopted and is using your product or service frictionlessly and who feels consistently valued.
Is far more likely to advocate for you. They become your organic marketing team.
And that's trusted growth. A customer referral is exponentially more valuable than a cold sales call or a paid digital ad. It bypasses that massive signal-to-noise problem we all face today.
Precisely. And if you only focus on that initial transaction, you never unlock this incredible potential for viral, trusted growth. This dramatically reduces your cost of new customer acquisition, which in turn accelerates your profitability. It's a virtuous cycle.
And the third objective ties this all back into the overall corporate strategy. It's not just about growing, it's about growing safely and sustainably.
It's about accelerating top-line growth. But the key nuance here, the really important part, is ensuring those new revenue streams are founded on sustainable recurring value. You can always generate a spike in top-line growth through heavy promotions, flash sales, one-time deals.
But that growth is empty calories.
It's volatile. It's easily undercut by your competitors, and it requires constant, heavy investment to maintain. True, lasting acceleration comes from a foundation that guarantees recurring engagement, a steady, predictable, high-value stream that's rooted in continuous value delivery.
So if the first pillar defined how the organization should function frictionlessly, this second pillar really defines what the new financial model must look like. It has to be sustainable and experience-based.
Correct. And to feed that sustainable model, we now need to talk about data mastery and really the battle for attention.
And that transitions us perfectly into the third theme, which the source describes as the new battle, a battle fought at the frontiers of the customer's mind. This is where data truly becomes strategic, not just informational.
This is a radical concept because traditionally all strategic models focused on market share expansion. That was the primary goal. Capture more shelf space, acquire more users than the competition. Simple as that.
But the reality of today, the endless proliferation of brands and channels, the absolute explosion of cluttered information, it means that just having market share doesn't guarantee you have attention. You can be on the shelf, but if the customer's mind is completely elsewhere, you might as well not exist.
It's the difference between having a huge billboard on the highway and being the one thing the customer actually looks at when they drive by.
It's a very crowded attention economy, and the volume just always turned up to 11.
Exactly. So the new focus is on mindshare achieving that privileged attention. Gone are the days when you could win a customer solely with an exciting sales pitch or a flashy promotion. Your competition isn't just your direct rival anymore. It's every other piece of information vying for your customer's finite attention span, from social media notifications to news alerts.
To win, you have to occupy a trusted, privileged space in their mind. And the only way to do that is by proving you understand them better than anyone else.
And that understanding is built on data.
So how does an organization even begin this journey of capturing mindshare? Sounds really abstract, but the material gives us three very practical foundational prerequisites. This is the heavy lifting phase.
It is. This is the essential groundwork for just understanding the relationship. First, you have to execute comprehensive journey mapping.
And this isn't just like drawing a few boxes on a whiteboard in a conference room.
No, not at all. This means understanding and mapping the customer's journey across their whole lifetime, from their very first moment of awareness all the way through to advocacy and even their eventual disengagement. And critically, this mapping has to factor in all the relevant legal regulations around customer consent and data privacy.
You can't build mindshare and trust if you're ignoring compliance and being creepy with data.
You'll destroy trust. So journey mapping isn't a one-time exercise. It's a living document that has to respect the constantly changing regulatory landscape and customer behavior.
Okay, that's a huge first step. What's the next prerequisite?
The second is engagement identification. This means you have to meticulously identify every single point where the customer connects with your organization, both directly and indirectly.
So beyond the obvious things.
Far beyond. This includes the formal channels like sales calls, service tickets, and e-commerce purchases, of course. But it also has to include the informal or external channels that influence their perception, things like review sites, social media mentions, community forums. You need a 360-degree view of where the conversation about you is actually happening.
And once you've identified that whole map and all the connection points, the third step is understanding the raw material that fuels this whole mindshare engine.
And that is data understanding. You must know what data arises from every single one of those moments of engagement. Every click, every call, every purchase, every service interaction generates a unique data set. If you don't know what specific data you have, its quality, its legal limitations, and its potential, you can't curate it or act on it strategically.
Okay, so let's say we've done the hard work. We've mapped the journey, we've identified all the engagement points, and we understand the resulting big data. That's the preparation phase, which is already massive. Now, how do we leverage that information to actually gain mind share? This is the actionable intelligence part, the application of the strategy.
This is where the strategy shifts from passive collection to active high-speed application, and it focuses on 3 stages of data mastery.
The first one is curation. What does that mean?
Yes, curation. The question is, how well does the organization curate all of that resulting big data? Curation is not just storage in a data lake. It's organizing, cleaning, structuring, and standardizing that data so it's actually useful and ready for automated analysis.
So good curation is the foundation for everything else.
It is. Poor curation means you just have a colossal mountain of raw information that is full of conflicts and inconsistencies, and that renders it totally useless for generating any real insight. Data quality is absolutely paramount for mindshare.
Okay, and the next step is extracting value from that curated, clean mountain of data.
That's intelligence building. This is all about how effectively you can build and extract actionable intelligence from that big data. This is where you deploy your predictive models, advanced analytics, and strategic insights. You're moving beyond just descriptive data, which is what happened, to prescriptive intelligence, which tells you what should happen next or what is likely to fail in 2 weeks.
So this intelligence is what identifies trends, predicts churn, and forecasts customer value.
Precisely.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting for me, because that predictive intelligence is completely worthless if it just sits on a dashboard that's viewed once a week by an analyst in a back room. The third step has to be the moment of truth for the customer experience.
It is the most crucial step of all, actionability. This is the last mile problem of data. The question is, how well is that intelligence made actionable precisely at the moment of the customer experience?
Give me an example of that.
It's the difference between knowing a customer is likely to churn, that's an insight, and having the frontline representative screen immediately display a personalized, proactive retention offer based on that predictive insight while they are on the phone with that customer.
So mindshare is one when the customer feels known, understood, and proactively served at their exact moment of need. That deployment has to be instantaneous. If it takes 5 minutes for the system to process the insight and route the action, the moment is lost.
The moment is lost, and the customer has experienced friction instead of intelligence. Mindshare is fundamentally the consistent, high-speed deployment of intelligent data right into the customer journey. And when you achieve that, you can finally move on to the ultimate promise, reliably delivering the value you've created.
And so we arrive at the fourth and final strategic outcome, value fulfillment. This really seems to be the pillar that ties all the others together. You've got the frictionless front end, the recurring revenue model, and the data-driven intelligence. This is the delivery system for the entire strategy.
Value fulfillment is the ultimate goal, absolutely. And it's defined as something far more than just catering to your customers' critical needs. The source material really emphasizes that true value creation requires doing this consistently, repeatably, and critically, scaling it in a sustainable and efficient manner.
So it's not about the initial flash or the marketing wow factor that gets you a good case study for the website.
Correct. Anyone can deliver a one-off wow experience if they throw enough people and money at a problem. That's brute force, but it's not sustainable. The real objective is to become the customer's trusted friend across their entire journey.
And consistency is what builds that trust.
Consistency builds trust, and trust is the absolute foundation of value fulfillment. To be a leader in the customer experience space, you have to excel at delivering on your promise every single time, without exception.
This suggests that the organization has to move beyond just optimizing its customer-facing roles. It has to look deeply into its own internal machinery, because if the operations, the back end, are inefficient or disconnected, then value fulfillment becomes impossible. Every promise you make risks being broken by some internal logistical failure.
You've hit the nail on the head. The strategic spotlight shifts to internal integration and process orchestration. The material details 3 specific focus areas here that are all about bridging that critical gap between what you sell and what you can actually deliver.
Okay, let's discuss that necessary integration first. Where do the front and back offices absolutely have to meet?
The first area is seamless integration, and this is described as an absolute necessity. It's about integrating your customer-facing front office applications, things like Salesforce automation, marketing campaign tools, and service platforms, with all of the relevant back-end fulfillment applications.
Because you can't promise a delivery date or a specific stock level in the front office if the back office systems aren't communicating inventory levels, logistics constraints, and order processing status accurately and in real time.
You can't. And the specific back-end applications mentioned here are crucial. We're talking about the core operational engines of the business.
So what are they?
We're talking about ERP systems, the Enterprise Resource Planning System, which is the transactional backbone for finance, manufacturing, and core operations. We need deep integration with supply chain and logistics platforms, and crucially with master data management, or MDM, and analytics platforms.
Why is MDM so important here?
Because master data management ensures that you have a single, clean, golden record of the customer, of the product, and of the transaction details across the entire enterprise. That's what stops conflicts between what the sales team quoted and what the finance team invoices. If that connection is broken between the sales quote and the logistics system, value fulfillment just collapses into confusion and broken promises.
Okay, so that's the system integration. The second area seems to focus on ensuring the entire journey of the product or service into the customer's hands is streamlined.
That's right. It's called orchestrated order management. This requires streamlining the entire order management lifecycle. And this spans every single step, from generating the initial interest and driving the purchase behavior, all the way through order processing and fulfillment, and completing all the downstream processes like logistics, finance, and service follow-up.
It's a huge span. It sounds like automation is absolutely key here to mitigate the risk of human error.
Automation is essential. A perfectly orchestrated order management system ensures that the moment the customer clicks buy or signs the contract, all the subsequent steps, financial holds, inventory allocation, logistics scheduling, service commissioning, are all automated and transparent to both the customer and the company.
So friction is minimized because the process is designed to flow seamlessly across every internal department boundary.
Exactly. And finally, the third focus area addresses the human element that's required to make all of this orchestration actually work. And that's about breaking down internal territoriality.
The politics.
The politics. The necessity of cross-division collaboration. This is the organizational shift required to make the integration and orchestration successful. Value fulfillment demands active collaboration between all these diverse internal divisions. Your e-commerce teams, your key account sales teams, channel partner management, marketing, customer insights, and the IT department that has to manage all these systems.
That collaboration sounds like a monumental task, especially given how often those groups operate in vertical silos, sometimes with completely competing performance metrics.
It is. It requires real leadership to bring people and processes together across these horizontal paths. You have to actively eliminate the vertical silos and instead align teams horizontally around the customer journey. This is what achieves the necessary vertical uplift toward value fulfillment.
Because without that unified internal collaboration, without shared metrics and unified budgeting, the customer will inevitably feel the pain of the organizational boundaries you failed to dismantle.
They will always find the cracks in your org chart. Trust requires internal unity of purpose.
So when you put it all together, value fulfillment is the ultimate proof that a company is truly experience-centric. It doesn't just market the promise. It delivers that promise reliably and efficiently every single time across the entire organization, from the initial click to the final invoice. This has been an absolutely critical deep dive. I mean, we've gone into the core strategic shifts that are required for true CX transformation. We started by defining that comfortable but financially dangerous trap of inertia.
The path of least resistance.
And then we explored the 4 essential interconnected outcomes that really define the transformative path forward.
To quickly summarize the architectural design we've laid out, this transformation is defined by frictionless execution, which leads to sustainable recurring revenue, which is built on a foundation of strategic, data-driven mindshare expansion, and it's all validated by consistent value fulfillment.
And the key takeaway for me is that these are not independent projects you can pick and choose from.
Not at all. They collectively define a new customer-embedded organizational structure that's focused entirely on sustained outcomes, not just short-term outputs.
It really is the choice between making small, incremental tweaks to maintain old, comfortable structures versus accepting the risk and the reward of a fundamental structural overhaul. And the material, it captures this strategic moment so well with a reference to a timeless piece of poetry about the choice of paths.
It does. The choice for any business leader today is profound. Do you follow the safe, predictable, but ultimately stagnant path of inertia? That's the well-trodden road where everyone else is consistently getting the same dwindling results. Or do you choose the fresh path of business transformation to make your organization truly, deeply customer experience centric?
The poem reminds us, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that is make all the difference.
And that is the perfect reflection of the potential change we're talking about. We've detailed the road of comfortable habit and the road of CX transformation. So we'll leave you with this one final, crucial question to think about. Given the measurable decay that we know is caused by long-term inertia, which road will you choose when you're planning your next move? The road of comfortable habit or the road built on sustainable, outcome-driven customer experience?
That's a powerful question to mull over. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.